So here recently, Phil Steele put together a list of the 10 teams he thought the AP would put in their preseason top 10. A list we need to talk about, and especially when you look at the totality of the past year in college football. All the drama in terms of coaching overhaul and transfer portal acquisitions, this is sure to be an offseason where college football fans are at the edge of their seats in anticipation for the year to start. And with that in mind, we need to break it all down. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Why for yes, N for no? Do you agree with this list first and foremost? And then secondly, what's a team you're really intrigued about that may not be your favorite team? If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, like and comment down below. Those interactions seem really small, but they truly are massive to content creators such as myself in both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all that being said, let's hop right into this and talk about this list. Because Phil Steele, as always, is an OG to the college football game, and when he makes something, there's going to be a lot of eyes on it. And this list is certainly no exception, because he released what he believed the AP will peg as their preseason top 10 teams. And let's run through the 10 teams to start this off with. At number 1, you have Alabama. At number 2, Georgia. 3, Ohio State, followed by Clemson coming in at number 4. At number 5, we have Texas A&M. At 6, Notre Dame, followed by Michigan at 7. At 8 comes in Utah. At 9, Oklahoma. And finally, at 10, we have the Oregon Ducks. So this is a list that, while not being surprising, is somewhat surprising, and we're going to run through every team, and I'm going to talk about why. At number 1 and 2, I don't think there's any surprise there. Both those teams playing for a national championship this past season, both of these teams recruiting at such an elite level. You have talent remaining at both of these teams, even though both of them are sending troves of guys to the NFL this season in Alabama and Georgia. You feel very confident that there's a lot of guys in the fold that they're going to be looking to that are going to have phenomenal seasons. And so when you put it like that, you look at the coaching at the top, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, great college football coaches. Alabama has the GOAT in Nick Saban. Kirby Smart worked under Nick Saban, is the architect of some really seriously good defenses, and just got a national championship. So what a really great way to boost your resume. So 1 and 2 make a lot of sense to me. At number 3, we have Ohio State, one that once again makes sense. And Ohio State's interesting because they return a Heisman hopeful quarterback in CJ Stroud, who is really talented. And I think one of the things that is going to leave a positive taste and impression on the minds of the AP voters is how Ohio State finished the season in one of the best games all year long in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State versus Utah, where Utah starts off so strong and Ohio State comes back in an absolute thriller. That's something that's sure to be on the forefront of a lot of these minds that are voting for this. Coming in at number 4 is Clemson, and this is one of the teams that's really intriguing to me because we all know what Clemson has been over the past few years. They've been synonymous with success over the past few years. However, they are coming off of a bit of a down year, and even on top of that, you're looking at a lot of new pieces on this Clemson staff, even though Dabo Swinney remains. So the question must be asked for Clemson, what is this team going to look like? You no longer have Brent Venables, your defensive coordinator, who put together so many top-tier defenses for Clemson. You no longer have Todd Bates, your defensive line coach, who many hated recruiting against, and we saw the defensive lines he was able to put together, and you're going to be sitting there trying to find a new offense to run. So there's going to be a lot of new for Clemson, but like I said with Georgia and Alabama, Clemson's a team that recruits really well, and Dabo Swinney has had the blueprint for success there. However, that does not mean my interest isn't piqued as to what Clemson will look like this season, and that moves us to number 5, Texas A&M. And Texas A&M is a team that, though they didn't finish in the top 10 in last year's ranking, they did beat Alabama, and then they brought in the number 1 recruiting class of all time. So there are going to be a lot of eyes in College Station this season because of what Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M brought in terms of recruiting. Texas A&M is a team where this past offseason, my biggest question for the Aggies is, what is your offensive line going to look like? The year before, in 2020 to 2021, the Texas A&M Aggies fielded an elite offensive line filled with senior guys, and they had to replace that in 2021 to 2022. And they did just that. So now when you're looking at what Texas A&M can do moving forward, you don't have the questions you once did about the offensive line because they were able to do that this season. Though you're wondering what the quarterback situation is going to look like, they recruited really well, and it's going to be interesting to see what they're able to do. Number 6, Notre Dame is an interesting one. The end of the Brian Kelly era has arrived, and the start of the Marcus Freeman era has begun. And so because of that, when you're talking about the coaching overhaul at that institution in particular, I'm really interested to see what Notre Dame is able to do. Look, Marcus Freeman is a coach that a lot of institutions have been trying to lift from Notre Dame unsuccessfully for quite some time, so it only made sense for him to be promoted to head coach. But it doesn't dismiss the question of what is this team going to look like. Notre Dame has a certain expectation, and Brian Kelly, for the most part, was able to at least meet that. And sure, they might not have won a national championship, but as I always say, I don't think we as fans really give credence to how difficult it is to win a national championship. Heck, how difficult it is even to get to the college football playoffs. Something he was able to do, and that does mean something. At number 7, we have Michigan, and Michigan's coming off of their best season under Jim Harbaugh, but then after that season, Jim Harbaugh publicly flirts with the NFL. They finally got over the hump that is Ohio State, and I'm interested if that can help them continue taking those next steps. So Michigan at number 7 is interesting. At number 8, we have Utah, and just like I said for Ohio State, this is a situation where Utah is fresh in the mind of these voters for participating in one of the best games we saw all last year in the Rose Bowl. And though Utah lost, you didn't look at that team and think, man, this isn't a good football team. You looked at that Utah team and thought to yourself, this is a capable team, as Utah typically is. The Utah Utes are a team that typically fly under the radar, but for my real fanatical college football fans, you know what Utah is capable of. And just like we talked about in my live stream not too long ago when we were discussing the status of the Pac-12 going into next year with Lincoln Riley in the fold, with Dan Lanning in the fold, don't forget about Utah. At number 9, we have the Oklahoma Sooners, and this is an interesting one. Because Oklahoma finished last year ranked number 10 in the nation, and then they had coaching turnover. And now they have a new head coach and new assistant coaches throughout, and the dust is starting to settle in Norman, and we're beginning to get a glimpse and an understanding of what this coaching staff wants to be. And look, this is a coaching staff that a lot of you Oklahoma fans have continuously expressed to me how excited you are, and I certainly can understand it. Brent Venables has put together really solid defenses with Clemson, and he's been incredibly effective on the trail. Todd Bates is a hire I keep talking about, and I will continue to keep talking about. A former member of my Alabama Crimson Tide, an individual hailing from the state of Alabama, one of the best defensive line coaches in the nation, and one of the best recruiters in all of college football. That hire, to me, was a slam dunk, grand slam, knocked it out of the park. But along with Schmitty, getting back Schmitty to Oklahoma is going to be massive, especially with the move to the SEC nearing every day. So Oklahoma at number 9. It is interesting, right? Because they have so much coaching turnover. But at the end of the day, I think number 9 is a good spot. It's a spot that shows we still believe you are among the best teams in college football, but we are interested as to how these coaching turnovers will affect the Sooners. At number 10, we have the Oregon Ducks, another intriguing team that has a new head coach in Dan Lanning, but Dan Lanning has made some great hires, and Oregon is a program that is really intriguing when you think about it. A program that, if college football playoff admission is on floor 10, Oregon has been teetering around floor 8 or 9. Very close, a program that we expect to be really good every year, but a program that just hasn't taken that next step into being the team many expect and wanted them to be under Mario Cristobal. But now with Dan Lanning at the helm, it's going to be interesting to see how this can continue. The hires he's made, I'm very intrigued with, and now the Pac-12 has a new fire lit in it with USC. So how does that affect Oregon? I've always said when we're talking about college football rosters, iron sharpens iron. And I certainly don't think that that is removed from conference play. Having someone else in your conference, especially the Pac-12, which has been really devoid of that second team. Yes, Oregon may not have won it every single year, but you were really looking every year wondering, who's going to be that next team in the Pac? Who's going to contend and test Oregon? Now with Lincoln Riley at USC, you have an idea of who that team is, which in my opinion is only going to make Oregon better. So when you look at this list in its entirety, it makes absolute sense why Phil Steele believes these are the 10 teams that the AP will peg for their preseason top 10. A team that I was a little bit surprised to be omitted from this list was Baylor, who won the Big 12 championship last year. But in my mind, the one reason and one maybe argument I could think as to why they were omitted is because in Phil Steele's mind, he might be thinking that the AP is wanting to see just a bit more longevity out of Baylor before they're put here. But nonetheless, Baylor is a team I'm going to be watching very closely this next upcoming season. But with all that being said, hop down in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about this list. What team were you surprised cracked the list? What team did you think should have been in the list? And what team are you really interested in seeing next season? That's it. See ya.